Hello and welcome. I am Mouglalis, and you are listening to 355, a podcast by Chanel. Tonight, in Chanel Street at the Majestic Hotel, everything is very beautiful, very muffled. The sea looks like a blue screen, but a wild effervescence is building up downstairs. We are at the Cannes Film Festival, the most prestigious film festival. Below, on the Croisette, it is the 6 p.m. frenzy with everyone rushing to the soon-to-be-climbed mythical steps. For the 5th chapter of 355, I will meet with personalities from the world of cinema who I admire for their singular work. Together, we'll talk about creativity, boldness, and freedom. In a dialogue homage to Gabrielle Chanel, who was very close to cinema and invented a world of her own, the world of the modern woman. Creating words, that's also what cinema attempts in each film. I spoke with Gaspard Ulliel. Gaspard is a major player in today's French cinema, working with the greatest directors of this time. Gus Van Sant, André Téchiné, Benoît Jacquot, and Xavier Dolan, who directed him in Just the End of the World, winner of the Grand Prix at the 2016 Cannes Film Festival.
Do you, as an actor, feel that you are a creator? I mean, for example, for a director, it's hard to have the same level of creativity every day. Nowadays, you ask a director to invent their image, to storyboard. Not everyone works like that. There are directors like Angelopoulos, who, if he woke up one morning and had no inspiration, the weather wasn't right, he didn't film. Some of the filming took a year.
It's more complicated today. Working conditions are more comfortable.
Wong Kar-wai works like that, I think.
Yes. Many of them do. But then you need to adapt to budget constraints, time constraints. Yes, I've heard that, and I understand that.
As an actor, do you have days when you are less inspired?
I think the filmmaker has a much greater responsibility. We can always rely on the director, on a set. An actor's day is different. We come in later. In other words, it all starts with the director creating an atmosphere on set, deciding where he's going to position the camera, make a cut, depict what he had in his head, what he wrote in the script. But there are thousands of different ways to do that. That's what's great. That's what's interesting. It's never the same, even for a filmmaker, because everything changes from one film to the next. For me, something which has always been the catalyst for an artist, just a filmmaker, is the idea that you must constantly question yourself, never stop looking, because the day you stop looking, stop having doubts, stop trying to progress, reinvent yourself, you need to stop working. For me, the mark of a great filmmaker is someone who never stops looking.
That's also the mark of a great actor.
Of course.
You were very much in demand because you're really handsome. You're sitting in front of me, I can clearly see it. You were very much in demand for your looks in your early roles. Then you turn a corner by taking on more difficult roles for which you didn't necessarily need your looks. And you managed to do that because I'm very aware that we have a way of treating handsome men, and this has always been the case, that directors were satisfied with the fact that they were handsome and didn't make them work to make sure that they were good.
It was the same for women.
Exactly. Worse for women because we're still Yes.
Objects of desire.
When you're a handsome man, it's kind of similar in a way. I think you need to know how to create your own world and space.
Yes,
so you become known for more than your looks. Looks in themselves are not satisfying.
No.
You're just lucky to have inherited them. You got them by chance.
Yes, I think stigmatizing physical beauty shows a lack of imagination. I personally make an effort not to look at it like that, because that would be counterproductive, given the direction I am taking as an actor. In a way, I try to distance myself from this as far as possible, because a body, a face is a tool the actor has, but what is important is what is going on inside. And beauty can also be more internal. After all, it's very subjective too. I've often been seen as just a pretty face, and there will be people who don't find me handsome. I try not to mention it, but it's true. I have been told this on several occasions. But it's like you say, in terms of choosing roles, I'm unconsciously going for characters which allow me to go beyond the glossy image I might portray.
Yeah, leave behind this preconceived idea of an actor. He can become the creator of his own image, of his own journey by inspiring something else. I mean, speaking from my own experience, because I'm an actress, to come to terms with, not simply to rebel against the image projected. They're important, but perhaps I personally had one asset. I have a very deep voice, and people didn't exactly expect someone like that to be playing a young lead. I think it's the same for men. This representation of virility, where there was something missing. You yourself have played a great French designer and were able to inject a lot of femininity into the role. It was great, beautiful, very brave. I also really loved what you did with Xavier Dolan.
In any case, the film industry is built on stereotypes. I think it's unavoidable, given that the stereotype is a very important narrative tool. The benefit of a stereotype is that it's a sort of simplification which people immediately understand. It's more poignant. But of course, it is limiting. It is something that can become simplistic, a caricature, and it's something that has moved on in today's films. It's slightly different from the old stereotypes.
Do you mean the image of virility?
Yes, virility, or even the other side of the coin, the woman as an object of desire, the woman who was either a virgin, a mother, or a prostitute. Today, things are more complex and more comprehensive, thankfully. But you can't deny that this is part of cinema. It always has been about injecting something of a cliché, stereotype, an archetype.
But there have been revolutions. I mean, we're living in a world after Chanel, who certainly didn't fit the stereotypes of her time. She invented her own mold. I mean, and she even applied it to the cinema. She was invited to Hollywood by Sam Goldwyn, who wanted her to design costumes for the great Hollywood stars, which she did. And she managed to set a style. But then it went slightly wrong. wrong because they needed more sequins, more flounces, and the body for which she designed her clothes was not the right body for all the actresses who perhaps didn't feel at home in this modern style, who were stereotyped in a way which suited them, the old stereotype. So revolutions can happen. You do it to a certain extent when you choose your roles. I think it's very wise to choose your roles.
Yes, it can be, of course.
You invent the figure of a man. You tell your story through your choices. It's like opening a window, isn't it?
Yes. Firstly, it's personal. As you just said, for me, it's very important to reinvent yourself, get to know yourself, recognize yourself through your choice of characters, and also what it tells others about you, the message it sends, what it infers. And some choices can send a fairly strong message.
You have ties with fashion. You're the face of Chanel perfume. You have a relationship with Chanel. You're linked to a world in which image is important. Not all actors have this link. Are you, for example, careful about the image you project? Or are you not aware of it?
Yes and no. No, I don't think it's important to be aware of it, but it cannot get out of hand. You need to be cautious. It can't be an end in itself. I'm talking about myself here. For me, that would be so counterproductive. But I think there comes a moment when you must be aware about how people see you, the image you portray, and most importantly, the consequences of a particular action, a particular choice.
And from a strictly visual perspective, do you pay particular attention to your costumes? Do you get involved in the costume choice, or do you let someone else do it? For films?
No. I make an effort to meet the costume designer very early on so we can decide together. Some are more laid back than others.
Costume designer?
But the costume is very important because, to a certain extent, it's the first thing you see. There are lots of things that can be told through a costume. It tells you a lot about a character, their social status. It can also influence movement or change a body shape, the proportions. You can cheat a lot with a costume. I'm thinking about Bonello's Saint Laurent. I wanted to look as tall as possible, so we played about with the costume. We cut the jackets shorter, shortened the sleeves, chose shoes with slight heels. So many little details which gave an immediate impression. It's the first impression the viewer gets when they see an actor arrive on a scene. So I think the costume is very important.
Fashion is a tool we can use to change people because it changes the body.
Yes, completely.
Was this something you were particularly aware of when you played someone who drew a fashion designer? You draw, don't you?
Not much now, but I loved to draw when I was younger. I immersed myself in this character for a year, trying to read as much as I could about him. I was shown how to draw, yes. These were things I was very interested in.
Did you feel what story the cut of the outfits and the silhouettes were telling? What it was trying to bring to the world, to the streets?
Yes, of course, because Yves Saint Laurent had the same approach as Gabriel Chanel. He wanted to create a fashion that was more accessible, more rooted in the everyday, more comfortable, more suited to the present day. So there was something of a revolution of the female wardrobe.
Donc il y a une idée un peu, oui, d'une certaine révolution du vestiaire.
Like Gabrielle Chanel, these were people who put their indelible stamp on the history of clothes. They completely reinvented, revised, transformed it.
Oui, c'est une évidence. Après, pour en revenir au cinéma, c'est vrai que le costume...
Then coming back to the cinema, you can choose to make a costume visible or invisible.
Ou au contraire de le rendre invisible.
It's a choice.
C'est un choix, c'est-à-dire qu'il faut, on peut stigmatiser.
You can earmark a costume to become more important than something else. It almost becomes a character in itself, to relate something.
Après, on peut faire le choix, au contraire.
Or on the other hand, you can choose something more neutral that will fade into the background to let something else come to the fore. An actor, a scene, a setting. A while back, I worked with a filmmaker who was obsessed with choosing the right T-shirt. Sometimes we tried on 10 or so in the morning because he had an idea for a composition in his head, a color combination. So he asked the actors to stand side by side because he was looking for one particular color palette for a character alongside another color palette to create a sort of harmony. Yes, this is all part of the artistic direction of a film and the image you portray to the viewer.
In some way, black and white films would have solved the problem. Although, of course, there are different shades of grey in a black and white film.
Yes.
We were talking about all the things a silhouette or a body can depict, what an actor portrays with all that. But there is another side of the business which is very much in evidence in Cannes. What do you feel when you go up the steps of the Palais in Cannes? When you go up the steps, are you an actor or a human being or both? It doesn't have to be two separate things.
I think that all depends on the personality of the individual. I would tend to say that I try to be myself as far as possible. But that's not always possible, because you are in a sort of image of yourself. You're there to show off a little, and we must not forget to add glamour, create the dream. And you can't refuse to play that role because it is part of Cannes. Has always been about that. But I think that I try to portray an image that is fairly close to what I am really like deep down.
Yeah, for example, not be absorbed by the image, not be seen as just an image.
Well, certainly to not lose control of your image. Yes, definitely.
When I met Karl Lagerfeld, I was so lucky where I was entering the world of fashion and I thought I was entering a world of superficiality by excellence. I come across Karl Lagerfeld. Huge surprise. And I began to work on photo shoots with him. I was really young.
Before you were in films?
No, it was thanks to a film. It's always a story of cinema. I had been in Chabrol's film Merci pour le chocolat. And it was through this film that we met. He gave me a great gift because we did fairly regular photo shoots together, and he systematically picked the most singular photos of me. The ones where I wouldn't even find myself good looking, but it solved the problem of beauty. I mean, there were pictures where I would maybe think, oh yeah, this isn't bad. And he would never pick those because he wanted me to be completely myself. I mean, that's what he said. That's what he liked. And it was extremely liberating. It taught me a lot of things, even about the role of a film director. The question of image was solved, and I hadn't understood it. It was something very, very close to my individuality. Have you ever worked with someone who took you to this place?
I'm trying to convince myself that it's sort of what happens every time.
That's great.
I like the idea that every new experience, whether it's with a photographer or filmmaker, that person will reveal another side of me. There's the idea of continuing to move forward, rediscover yourself, the idea of trying to transcend something. And you can find good even in experiences which can be a bit disappointing. Every experience leaves something behind, even if it is a film that will push us forward.
And what would be your dream vision of modernity?
Vision of modernity?
Through your craft as an actor. Is it in the choice of a storyline, the choice of a character?
It's a bit of all that. Because modernity can be a film which has strong political or social roots in the world today, which will try to send out a message which is a bit different, modern. Merci. But it could also be a sort of modernity that is insidious, artistic, connected to a format, a setting, a new way of working, and also playing a role, approaching your role as actor in a new, different way, and trying to play a role in a different way.
En tout cas, une forme de jeu qui serait nouvelle d'une certaine façon. En fait,
in fact, I believe art in general. Art should always break the rules, overturn preconceptions about the world, and in some way revolutionize how people think. I think it's one of the main aims of art, to continuously launch new things.
That's great. Play your roles, break the rules. I can't wait. Thank you, Gaspard.
Thank you.